All right. So I've got something in store that is kind of crazy that I've been working on like a mad scientist for the last week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Uh, and it's something stupid. It's something very like elementary, which is consensus rankings for rookie prospects, right? The idea, the concept is that when you have a bunch of data points, you have a bunch of different opinions and scouting perspectives on players. When you combine them all, like, and find the shared truth amongst them, you can kind of get a more accurate overall ranking set for how good of prospects these are. And I messed around with this idea in um, actually an application I sent in to ETR to be a writer for them. Um, and I essentially just like used, in that one, I used Lance Zierlein's film grade, and I used projected NFL draft capital. And those two things were the main driver for a model, basically just to get a sense for how good these prospects are according from like a more film based perspective. And so yeah, but I'm taking it a step further. This is something that I is it's kind of like a pet project for me last year, and I did like average rankings, and it was cool, but wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I really wanted something that could just like take a bunch of collective knowledge and like distill it down to like, okay, these are how the rookies should be ranked. Um, because like I'm curious, I want to know like what the general pulse is on these guys. There's a lot of people that do a lot of good film work. There's a lot of good analytical work out there, although I didn't really leverage much analytically other than some like special PFF data points and the next gen stats draft score model and in the models that go with that. But yeah, just the more things that align together, I think the more different variables that align together, the greater chance that like that player is actually good if a bunch of different things agree. So that's the idea, it's core idea, core concept. And I learned about principal component analysis not too long ago, and I kind of taught myself a little bit about how it works and everything. This I'm not like a professional data analyst. I don't really um, I know a lot, but mostly just from teaching myself and learning. So there's a lot of like AI helping me out in this little journey here, and so yeah, I think by the way that Gemini and these AI tools are just extremely powerful, and it's hard to just like deny how cool it is that like I can just give it a CSV file and tell it to run some sort of analysis and can write up Python code and actually do that analysis for me. And so that's kind of a cheat code for anyone out there that wants to do analytical work but doesn't have the technical skill set. Um, I will say, like, be very careful if you're going to do something like that, because if you're not super knowledgeable about how to model and how to um, kind of properly go through it, you you could do something that looks good and like seems right, but you could create all sorts of issues, modeling issues if you don't know what you're doing. So I think if you're going to do a model, like a predictive model, like make sure that you're extremely knowledge, like you learn as much as you physically can about statistics and modeling and everything in that realm to try to avoid some of the pitfalls, because it'd be very easy if you didn't have any of that knowledge to just like go in and like screw up, like build a model that's overfit, build a model that's not predictive or not useful, or because the AI models, the large language models, they're not actually knowledgeable at all. They really are just like predicting text, and so you know it's going to give you back something that looks like a plausible result. And if you're not an expert and you don't know what you're doing, that plausible result is going to seem like it is like true. But if you do know what you're doing, you're going to see a lot of areas where it's screwed up. Anyways, so let's just get to like the meat and potatoes of this. Um, Now I meant to I did use some paywalled sites. By the way, generally when I've been doing PCA analysis, I've been using this. It's a lot easier. You can just copy and paste the data in and hit calculate, and it'll give you everything. Um, but like I said, I used AI for this to code it up for me. So I have the current, well, it's not current exactly. It's like a day or two old, but this is the NFL mock draft database kind of rankings, just skill positions, because we only care about that for fantasy. And then Sandbox here is kind of, I probably shouldn't show that yet, but Sandbox is kind of where I've just been copying and pasting in the results, I guess, of the PCA analysis. Um, but yeah, so I wanted to show sort of the variables that I'm using, um, and I need to hide some, I guess, because this is paywalled information that I'm like leaking right now. Sorry, Matt Harmon, your work is amazing, and I just shared a lot of stuff accidentally. Then you also have Matt Waldman stuff here, so I just hid everything that is like paywalled. Um, I think we're good now. So it starts off with the NFL prospect grade, which is literally just Lance Zierlein's film grade on NFL.com. The Next Gen Stats prospect score or draft score. That is kind of a analytical model um, using their production and their athleticism, which there's a production score and athleticism score. If you want to read up more on that, I'm sure you can go online and kind of figure it out. If not, like I have links for resources to understand a little bit more of what goes into those models. Uh, the explainer article uh, for these models are actually just like there's one in particular that's my favorite, and it got removed. So the only way to access it is through an archived link of the old website there. So that kind of sucks. But if you need that, let me know. Brett Whitefield's film grades I have in here. He's works for FantasyPoints.com, does some film work for them. Sports Info Solutions grade. So they have a team of scouts that is going through and grading every player. They have like kind of a consistent criteria that they use. It's like an NFL. It's very much the NFL scaling system. You see, it's the similar one as what Zierlein uses, although it's going to be varying a little bit different. Then James Foster, formerly of 33rd Team, he does some good work. He came onto the scene last year a little bit more in the draft space, and I have his grades in here, at least all the ones from the last time I pulled the data from his website, which was kind of a pain, by the way. If he could make that easier to access, like a download or something, James, if you're watching this, please do that. It was very annoying to try to pull your grades into this. Then my new mutual follow on Twitter has been one of my favorite follows, Ball Coach Nate. He's a former college coach, and he's starting to get into the draft space, trying to build his name up. And his homework is awesome, from what I can tell. Like, this guy knows his stuff, and he has free breakdowns on his Substack of all of these prospects, and he shows his work. Like, he has all of his grades in each category, and it's very good stuff. I highly recommend following him and like going and looking at his stuff, because he's a very good analyst, and he's going kind of under the radar, I think, because he doesn't have a big following or anything. I don't have a big following, but I think he should have a way bigger following than what he currently does. So go follow that guy. Micah Renner, working CBS analyst. I have his big board rankings here. I have Trevor Sikkema's rankings. It was formerly PFF's like big board ranks. I don't know if they've changed it all. This is the last time I pulled them. So this is Daniel Jeremiah's his board that he releases his top 50 or whatever. I threw that in there. It's kind of outdated. I think this is like mock draft 2.0. I'll update it at some point, but it's not that big of a factor because it's just the top 50, so there's not many prospects he has ranked there. Same with Daniel Kelly, the Ringer. That's just the Ringer's like draft guide, what their big board looked like. And then these two, Zach Reed and J Mike, they do a little I haven't gotten to the catch-all episodes yet and added them in, but they do film analysis on the incoming prospects, and so they kind of rank them out, tier them out based on the film grades they give them. And they're over on the Fantasy Cares YouTube channel. They have a very entertaining live stream to watch. I absolutely love Zach Reed's his kind of little story infused reports on players. Those are always fun to listen to. And both J Mac and Zach are great with the analysis. And then so yeah, I have their little like tiers based on at the end of every episode they go through and they like read out what their rankings look like. Then I have Connor Rogers. Like this is just from a big board. I know he has positional rankings, but I couldn't find any that were like up to date. I'm sure they're probably very similar, if not the same, but that's just kind of what I have for him right now. I have Matt Waldman's rankings, which I forgot to hide. Whoops, sorry. I have Josh Norris and Hayden Winks, their receiver rankings. So the top 15 receivers for both of them. This is residual from last year when I tried this. I used Thor Nystrom's like top 500, and Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo, their positional rankings. I had that in here before. I don't think either have released like recent rankings yet, so I haven't put them out in this. Then I have Chris Sims. I know his rankings are very controversial, but it is a film opinion and it is a unique opinion. And when you're doing wisdom of the crowd's research and work, unique opinions are just more valuable, right? They provide more information that the kind of consensus, consensus opinions like provide, because when everyone just has everything ranked the same, there's no like value to be gained from that. Like each individual ranking, if they're all the same, very heterogeneous, then you don't really get any like cool insights. So this allows us to have some cool insights, but it's not like going to be heavily weighted or anything because there's a lot of different things. So next I have Eric Froton. He's like mainly a college football guy. So it's cool to have his perspective in here. Steve Smith Sr., his wide receiver rankings are in there. Obviously, former receiver, has a cool, pretty cool film opinion. Dane Brugler just released the Beast, so I threw in all of his tiers, the tiers are essentially just where he has them slotted to go in the draft, and so he has like a round estimate of where he thinks he'll go. I have the Dayton Brugler, like his rankings, his positional rankings. These are Mike Renner's tiers, because he did a tier episode with ETR, showing the top 15 receivers, I believe. He actually had Taylon Green as a receiver in that. For those who don't know, it's a quarterback that lit up the combine, but I did not include Taylon Green in his receiver rankings in this. Sorry, Mike, if if that bothers you. But yeah, these are his position rankings. I have quarterback, running back, and receiver. Like I said, it's the top 15. Quarterback and running back are from the Check the Mike podcast where he talked through his top five. So that's all I got. Then I have the C plant grade 1 and the C plant grade 2. Now, these are my personal film opinions. Film is a strong word. I Going back like the last 2 years, I've watched highlights and I've graded highlights. And so I have like a small database of prospects from the 2024, 2025 class of like generally what I thought they were and a bunch of different attributes. This grade 1 and grade 2 are essentially just a PCA. So like I basically took all of my highlight grades and I was like, you know, let's condense these down into like the two like strongest signals. And so grade 1 is the the most common signal amongst all of my like attribute grades. That's it, right? And then grade 2 is the second most common signal amongst all my attribute like grades. I grade everything roughly 6 to 10. It was really initially 0 to 10, but I caught myself starting to do like a letter grade system, and so that's kind of what it evolved into or devolved into. Um, but yeah, I can quickly go through. I have a bunch of different attributes at every position, and these attributes are what make up those like total total scores, right? Um, Running back, you've got traits. Last year, what I did for the running back class for some of them is I literally went through and I have a link of the highlight that I watched and I went through and I charted, what kind of missed tackle force they had on each play if they did have one. If it was a juke, a stiff arm, a spin attempt, a truck, a cut, an arm swipe, or like a shrug off, a leg drive where they kind of just like power through, or a hurdle where they jump over them. So I'll get to that, and I'm gonna include this in the overall analysis too at some point. Um, this is making in a big assumption that basically all these scouting grades and stuff are actually just everything about them is good. Like it's good to be a playmaker, it's good to have vision, it's good to score high and outside run, etc. Um, if if there's anything that's bad, um, it probably won't really even get captured because I think the overwhelming signal is a bunch of stats that are just like, okay, this is a measure of them being good. So if it doesn't correlate with them being good, then it probably won't get included in the overall consensus grade at the end. I know this is very convoluted and very confusing, but hopefully by the end I can tie it together in a way that makes sense. Uh, to go through some more of the variables that I've included, we've got Sumer Sports badges. If you go to Sumer Sports, they've actually got their draft guide, and in their draft guide, they have these top 25 badges, and they're essentially different proprietary metrics they have based on their AI, I believe, their computer vision that goes through and you know assigns values to players in specific attributes, kind of like a scout. It's like, from what I understand, it's an AI scout they've basically developed, and these badges are representing where players are good in with the AI scout, right? And so Carnell Tate in particular, he has the gloves badge. And so it basically is just like, yeah, this is representative. Okay, he's top 25 in ability to get open when not targeted. All right. So I'm not gonna make a value judgment on what badges matter more than others. That's just kind of for this exercise. I feel like that would be a little bit too much, although this is already a lot. But I went through and I counted up how many badges each player got, and I inputted each one into a column. So that's a variable, right? And then Sumer Sports also did a YouTube series where they did breakdowns of the class in each position. And essentially, they have this computer vision AI model that's scouting, right? Essentially. And so I believe that these traits are all AI computer vision graded. And so here, real quick, let's filter this down to running backs. So you can see that there wasn't many that they showed in the YouTube video. But the interesting thing is they found potentially a hidden gem in Noah Whittington, where his numbers across the board were pretty good, and he's not generally viewed as a top running back in this class. And some of the other top like secondary running backs didn't score very well, like Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson, and Singleton. They all fared very poorly. Now I believe this is only looking at the 2025 season and not their entire careers. So maybe, they could have had some down seasons or what have you. But regardless, this is an interesting data point that I decided to include in this research, right? And so to get through, so we've got the Sumer AI running back traits, Sumer AI receiver traits, and quarterback traits, and tight end traits. So I went through all the videos, pulled all the data, and so that's what we got. Now, the thing that took the longest time was this. Sports Info Solutions has a team of scouts that goes through and watches and grades players at every position. And so you can find it here at the Draft Hub, SIS Draft Hub. Now, I don't think that they anticipated anybody would do something as insane as pull all the data manually from each player profile, but that's what I did. So, for example, if you go to Jeremiah Love, it's not loading. It has a little bit of performance anxiety here. Okay. So what I did was I pulled the critical factors and the positional factors, and I just put them into a spreadsheet. And I did that for every running back prospect I could that was in my little database I set up. And so all this information is in there for every player, every skill position player except tight end. I didn't feel like it. I got very, very exhausted of doing it. And then last but not least, we've got PFF Advanced Metrics. And this is also something that I had to pull one by one. I decided to skip out on running back stuff because it didn't seem like there was anything interesting. But PFF has, instead of doing a draft guide in a PDF form, they did it in an article form where they just listed out a bunch of player profiles. And so I can click on, Jacoby Lane here. And it has a scouting report. I considered pulling all this, but this would have taken so long. And I figured this is written by Trevor Sikkema. So it essentially would have been a lot of the same signal as his rankings, I guessed. So I didn't really bother. But this is the crown jewel right here. This information right here. So separation data is very valuable for receiver in particular. So what I did was I pulled the receiver separation data that they have here. Now, I don't know if this is charted data or if this is computer vision or tracking data or what the deal is, but I pulled it. And I have it for every receiver in this draft class. And then at quarterback, they also have quarterback profiles. If I could pull them up, let's go to Mendoza. So he's got some player traits here, grades, stable metrics. This is all some very cool information, but it's hard to pull all this data into a sheet. So yeah, I just pulled the accuracy rates. What I did to pull all this data is I literally would just copy and paste this into Gemini and told it to organize it for me. So it wasn't as painful as the Sports Info Solutions stuff because here I still had to pull it individually, but I was able to just screenshot and then get the data from that way. So I don't know what accuracy plus is, but I'm assuming that it might be some sort of completion percentage over expected metric. That's my guess. Accurate percentage, I'm assuming is just percentage of accurate passes. Catchable but inaccurate. Like these are uncatchable. Other percentage. What the hell does that even mean? I don't know. What is other? I don't know, but I included it. Average depth of target, I don't think I included because that's more of a stylistic thing, not a skill thing as much. But yeah, so I included all of these. I included reception perception data, their man success rate, their zone coverage success rates, their IPCA'd, their total route success rates into two of the top components. I also took Matt Waldman's depth of talent score and breadth of talent score rankings. I didn't take his tiers. Maybe tiers would have helped a little bit, possibly. But I put it all in. Matt Waldman, it's just running back and receiver. For now, I plan on adding quarterback and tight end later. But yeah, so it's got a million different data points, right? Crazy amount of data points. And with that said, I just went and took this, and I'll show, for sake of transparency, I'll show you exactly what it looked like. I put the data in. I said do a PCA analysis on each position using every data point from this column, and then it went through, and it essentially returned this little table where it said, okay, 64%. This is a little hard to believe, but 64% of the variance of like all the sources were explained at the running back position by one variable. So that was shocking to me. I don't know the legitimacy of that. But we're going to roll with it. 46% for tight end, 39% for quarterback, and 31% for receiver. So these are just like taking all the variables that I just mentioned and saying like, okay, what is the most common signal amongst all of them? Let's make this like fake component, this number one metric that encapsulates all of this. So yeah, and then here is all the code. I went through and looked through it to make sure there was nothing funky going on. My level of understanding is kind of low, so, but it kind of passes the sniff test, I would say, because it does explain everything it's doing with each step, which is awesome. So it also gives me these volatility and spread metrics. So the spread is just kind of like, what's the highest somebody has a player or a metric has a player, and what's the lowest. And then the standard deviation is kind of just like, the volatility is just kind of like, the higher it is, the more disagreement there is on that player. So that's it, right? And so using that, I copied and pasted into this sandbox thing, this tab, and I'm able to get some very interesting insights. And so we can go position by position. We can start with quarterback, right? And so I have the position rank of the consensus model, right? So if we want to sort it by the consensus model, this is what it looks like. Mendoza 1, Ty Simpson 2, Beck 3, and so on and so forth. Then you have the mock draft position rank. This is like where the mock drafts have them. So there's no difference between the top two. Beck is a little higher on here than he is, or he's a little higher amongst the consensus value than he is in mock drafts. If I sort it by the difference, I can kind of see like who's higher in this consensus thing than mocks. By position rank, Diego Pavia is a weird one. I was not expecting him to pop and be very high. In my opinion, I don't think he's very good, but his numbers were kind of good. So I think that's partially what's pulling him up, if I were to guess, is that his PFF metrics were better and he probably doesn't even really have that many other consensus values in general. Like it might be a small sample size issue as well. But Cade Klubnik is 4 spots higher than he is in mock drafts. And that to me is very interesting. Like this is someone that I think is pretty toolsy, um, but he kind of lacks, from what I understand, he lacks the kind of refinement of playing the position of quarterback. But the fact that like overarching, he is liked more, significantly more than the current mock draft database, that is very intriguing, especially for when you go through and you look at who the guys are that are lower rated than the mock drafts. You've got Cole Payton, you've got Taylon Green, you've got Sawyer Robertson, all three of which are quarterbacks that I find very interesting because they're all pretty toolsy. Robertson's got a strong arm. Cole Payton's a runner. Taylon Green, like these guys are exciting. They seem to have high ceilings. At least the Payton and Green. Robertson is a odd player. Morton is also plays in like an air raid kind of system, I believe. Um, Robertson and him actually, and so they have that kind of, you know, air it out profile, if you will. But yeah, the it's interesting how these are the guys that are higher by mock drafts. It's kind of counterintuitive because I would think that like the toolsy guys that the film guys would like more, but maybe it's the physical tools that are just too alluring for the kind of average person to kind of, you know, compared to actually what a legitimate scout would think, I guess. Does that make any sense? I don't know. But nonetheless, let's go. Let's move on. Um, Now, running back was fascinating, right? You had Heidenreich, uh, 11 spots higher. And this is someone that Dane Brugler has in the top 10 running backs of this class. That's interesting. Like, and it's also a guy that has a very fantasy friendly profile where he can catch the ball. Very interesting profile. And the fact that he pops up here is cool. Le'Veon Moss is someone that I really liked in my highlight grading process, and he's underrated. He just flat out is very underrated. If he's the RB14, that is not right. If we go on Twitter, an interesting data point that I saw today was Joseph Bryan, who does some very good modeling work. I just flashed my recent Twitter searches. That's funny, but I don't care. Um, so he created his own custom rush yards over expected metric, and you have Love and Price at the top, but the third player in this metric is Le'Veon Moss. And he pointed out in his Substack post that Le'Veon Moss actually had a very strong or very difficult strength of schedule, and that makes sense. That's backed up by if you look at anything that's measuring strength of schedule, like college football reference standings. If I pull this up, it has a strength of schedule metric, and I think Texas A&M was towards the top in it. So let's see, summary. No, I don't want conferences. I want just regular standings. Okay, strength of schedule. So the higher the number, the more difficult the schedule. So Wisconsin's schedule is very difficult. Um, I've seen some people having like Vinny Anthony was a receiver for Wisconsin. So maybe somebody to watch out for late. I don't know. Uh, but Texas A&M was pretty high. Like they're 23rd in the country in the strength of schedule metric on Sports Reference. I think Joseph's work is a little bit more specific to running backs, and he's like, yeah, the strength of schedule is difficult. So you have that, and like he's scoring high in this metric, and he's like way higher than mock drafts have him in this consensus building tool here. So that's a guy that I'm very interested in. And so I'm going to quickly sort by the position rank itself, so we can just get an overall view for what the guys look like. But Jaden Ott, 22nd in the consensus rank. He is 6th in NFL mock draft database. Why is beyond me. This guy should not be 6th. I actually do know why. I'm lying right now. Channeling my inner Davis Maddock. That's so. Jaden Ott is right here. Between Demond Claiborne. I just want to call him Demon because I think that's way cooler than Demond. But and then Katron Allen. He has no business being here. The only reason he's here is because recently he was mocked in the first round by 2 guys for whatever reason. I have no clue why, but recently you had Bjorn Bergstrom put him in the first round. No, that was 2025. Some reason that's popping up here in 2026. Then you had Jim Coventry in 2026 put him 32nd. There must be some sort of error or issue. Denny, if you're watching this, you should probably fix this. Jaden Ott is not going to go inside. I will say it still has him 5th round, and the rest of these mocks have him at 5th. But this still seems a bit ridiculous. Is this guy really going to go that high? I'm not quite sure. He didn't even get a combine invite, right? And that's a common trend amongst the guys that are higher ranked is guys that have a big difference. Kalen Black and Jaden Ott are 2 of the ones with the biggest difference between their consensus rank being lower than their mock draft rank or their rank on mock draft database, and both of them didn't get combine invites. So that's a weird little quirk. I don't know what's going on with both of them, but like, man, that these don't make sense. Adam Randall, it seems like some people just absolutely hate. Fine, I don't really have much of a opinion on him, but yeah, he's currently overvalued by consensus by about 8 ranking spots there in mock draft database. So then we've got Nick Singleton, who's a little bit overvalued too, which is a weird one. This is like, I keep on hearing people like, oh, watch out for Nick Singleton. He's really athletic. He's really good. He just didn't get to participate in the combine. It's like, man, no. Mock draft still have this guy as RB7. By the consensus ranks, he comes out as RB12. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, he's a fade for me. I just don't really understand. I mean, he is athletic, yes. But personally, when I watched, I'm not a film expert, nor am I a data analytics expert. I don't know. I'm not an expert in anything. But I do know that I don't think that Nicholas Singleton is very good. Okay. Don't quote me on that because I could be just wrong. It could be very wrong. But that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I like Claiborne. Donaldson is just like Donaldson. You know what Donaldson reminds me of? He reminds me of Mike Gillislee. That's that's who Donaldson reminds me of. Kind of a crazy pull, but whatever. Claiborne, similar. I mean, he's not very undervalued or overvalued. He's kind of like right where he needs to be. I think Mike Washington's a little bit overvalued, just slightly. Well, my personal opinion is that I think he's terrible. But the opinion of this process is that he's just slightly overvalued. Him and Jonah Coleman, both of them, I don't really see it with. Coleman is just like, man, this guy is not very explosive. So that's, but who knows? Maybe he's a good short yardage guy. Maybe he's more of a grinder type. But Emmett Johnson, oddly, a little bit higher in the consensus ranks than he is in the mocks. Another guy that I personally didn't really like, but someone to watch out for. If you look at the spread, he's kind of, out of all these 3 backs here, I think Jadarian Price is very clearly the RB2. But if you look at these 3 backs, you know, he has the lowest spread. He has the lowest amount of volatility in this grouping, and he ranks the highest in the consensus rankings there. So really, if you're gonna get a guy out of these three in your rookie drafts, and if you're gonna try to be overexposed, it seems like Emmett Johnson might be the one. But the only concern is the draft capital. So I really don't like any of these guys. I mean, landing spot is gonna change a lot of things, but right now, like these three profiles, not interested in. I just am not. Okay. So let's sort it by the consensus rank again, because then there's another grouping of three running backs that I'm very interested in, right? Now, McGowan is undervalued by about 4 ranking spots from consensus to the mock drafts. Then you have Le'Veon Moss, like we mentioned before, and Kaytron Allen is just really solid. I mean, the guy's pretty clearly good. Is he elite? I don't know. Don't really have a good read on that if he could be or not. But he is very solid, man. I like Kaytron Allen. I think he's fine. I don't have any concerns about him. He also scored highly in this custom rush yards over expected. Um, the cool thing about this is you're getting a lot of the similar signal from this metric as you are from mine. So I think I'm getting in the right direction. Um, Jamari Taylor, this model likes him. Like there's film people that like him, obviously, but man, I personally didn't like him at all. He seems to be one of those types that doesn't have great vision, but can catch the ball. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just my personal opinion. You can do with that what you may, but by this metric here, this combination of a bunch of consensus ranks, he is quite undervalued, right? And I'm sure for fantasy, I'm pretty sure his receiving profile is good. So, if you're gonna take a dart throw late, like that's a guy you might want to target, right? Cool. So then we talked about Claiborne already. Hemby, man, nobody's really talking about this guy, but the Dynasty Dummies guys love this guy. Love is probably a strong word. They did like him. Um, it was J Mike's favorite watch, from what I remember. And I mean, this guy, to me, this is my personal opinion. Again, you can feel free to completely disregard this, but in my opinion, like there is he's like a very like low end version of Derrick Henry. Because he kind of like he's kind of big and he has like this upright running style similar to Henry. Like when I see him, I'm like, oh, that is just like less good Derrick Henry. That's like Derrick Henry at home. Um, that's that's fun to me. I'm like I mean maybe it's not the best fantasy profile, but man, I like Hemby. And then you have Singleton, who's massively overrated by versus consensus, like we already talked. Noah Whittington, underrated. Very cool that the Sumer AI stuff had him higher. I don't know what else had him higher, but the Sumer AI stuff is going to have me drafting a lot of Noah Whittington this year because that is a very interesting signal. I don't even think Matt Waldman watched this guy. I think he missed him. I literally don't think. I'm pretty sure I don't have a Waldman score for him or grade for him because I don't think Waldman watched him, which is crazy. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, Whittington is someone that I'm interested in. Same with Rasul Faison. I think he's pretty good too. Like I liked his highlights. So like out of all the guys I'm targeting, Reed is fine. I mean I'm not super interested. Um, but if we're going through the list and we're talking about like guys that I like, Love, Price is good. McGowan, Moss, Katron. You can target Taylor at your own risk, right? Claiborne, that's tricky. I want to like him, but he's so small. But he's in that. I like Hemby. I like Whittington. I like Faison. And I like Heidenreich is in there. I do think Kalen Black's good. If the price isn't too bad, this is my personal opinion overriding what this says here. And that's about it. Maybe there's something to Jaden Ott being the 6th ranked running back by mock drafts. And if he, I don't know, it may be a late round flyer on him. Just because I know the Devy community loved him so much. But like these are my guys. Like the guys in black. There's some pockets of value where I'm like, yes, I'm interested in drafting those players. I don't even know what rookie draft ADP is going to look like yet. But these kind of takes also apply for redraft, I would say. All right, let's get into receivers. So let me just quick check to make sure that I haven't broken down yet. Okay, cool. Okay, so we've got Carnell Tate, clear one. There's no disagreement. The consensus has him that. Mock drafts have him number one. He's just the number one receiver. Like, no qualms with that. The guy is awesome. How elite is he? I don't know. That's to be determined. You also have the same number 2 in Lemon, the same number 3 in Tyson, right? The top 3 are chilling. Like, there's no, I mean, unless you think Tyson's better, but this consensus has been pretty set for a little bit, right? There is some variance with all 3 of these guys, I will say, to a certain extent. But I'll tell you right now, Tate is like number 1 in pretty much everything. But yeah. So this is ordered by mock draft position rank. Let's sort it by the consensus. Because right now, the NFL mock draft database has Omar Cooper Jr. over Casey Concepcion. That to me is wrong. Like, no thanks. Doesn't really make much sense. Casey's separation metrics are just so good. Whatever I look at, it's like, man, he can play. Omar Cooper Jr. can play as well. Personally, I'm not a big Boston guy, but essentially, actually, all 3 of these guys, it's hard to buy in on. I know Waldman really likes Fields. That's not a secret from his recent reception perception appearance. And he even likes Brazzell more than I would say Harmon did by quite a bit too. So those 2 are very boom bust. Out of these 3, I think Boston, the sense that I've gotten is that he's safer, but he's like more of a Cortland Sutton than he is a elite top end receiver. So like if you're fine taking Cortland Sutton there, that's, I mean, different strokes for different folks. Like whatever floats your boat there. But yeah, there's minimal difference. Malachi Fields, I should point out, is higher in the consensus ranking than he is in the mock drafts, and I honestly think it's literally just combine performance. That's the only thing that's pushed him down. He's probably actually pretty decent. And the interesting thing about him is I think he just needs to be a power slot. That's the weird thing with him. If he is a power slot, okay, maybe there's something there. If he's not, he might just be complete garbage, complete dog water. So be wary of that, or wary. I don't know which one is which, actually. Brennan Thompson, drastically undervalued. You compare his consensus rating to his mock draft position rank right now, and it's way different. I mean, this guy is way undervalued, and it's probably largely due to him being small. But this guy is not just a deep threat. I think this guy can actually play receiver, and you could legitimately get a steal with him. I think in the 3rd or 4th round of rookie drafts. Like, this guy there's something to him. Like, he's arguably the fastest receiver in this class, maybe even the fastest player in this class. And he can also kind of play football. So it's not like a Xavier Worthy bet where it's like, I don't know if this guy can actually play. Well, in that case, there were people that thought he could play, but he was more expensive. but Thompson is not gonna be pricey. So it's kind of like a Xavier Worthy bet, but you're getting it very cheap. And who knows where he's gonna go, but um, that's an interesting one that I'm watching intently. Skylar Bell is like your film bros, your favorite film bros favorite film expert loves Skylar Bell essentially. Uh, Skylar Bell is just like, being from Connecticut. I've seen UConn. I've watched him in person, I guess, multiple times. He's never actually wowed me. I've kind of always felt like he was a more of a gadgety type of receiver. Um, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Um, I haven't. I've been very underwhelmed with UConn's offense over the years. I'm excited to see what the new coaching staff has in store. But Bell, people like him. He's like well rounded. You know you probably have a decent floor with him. He's good after the catch. He can win tough kind of over the middle. Like this is a type of profile that I think wins a lot more in today's NFL with his after the catch ability. His catching technique has raised some flags from Waldman in particular. Like maybe he's not great from that standpoint, but he could be an outlier, right? But this is a guy that consistently across all film experts seems to be higher. People like him. People like him. So this is somebody that you should really like keep on your radar. Bryce Lance is also here in the mix, rated lower by the mock drafts than he is by the kind of consensus. He honestly, I think he's a little scary given the small school North Dakota State thing, but Christian Watson went there, and Christian Watson's fine in the NFL. But if we're saying his ceiling is Christian Watson, like, do we want a Christian Watson fantasy profile? Maybe not. I mean, he's been good. Sorry, Ryan Heath, actually, for the Christian Watson slander, but he's been good. Um, but like, I don't know. I just don't think he's as good of a talent as Watson. So from what I saw, there was very inconsistent uh, tech catching technique. Like the way he attacks the ball is different every time, and it's not always the best. So he's more of a project. I mean, I could see him developing over the years. Um, but yeah, athletic freak. He can he can play. He has something to him, but I had not necessarily so fully bought in. Jeremy Bernard, as much as I wanted to like him, it's like, man, this guy is kind of overrated. Um, but there are some very sick uh, highlight plays after the catch for him. Specifically against Tennessee, there was a play that stuck out to me where he made like five guys miss on a like blown up trick play, I think, where they tried to get him the ball in the flat or like behind the line of scrimmage for him to pass, and then he just wound up juking out a bunch of guys. Uh, he's fun and he's solid. He'll probably be more of a role player though. That's the concern. And yeah, I wonder if the consensus values kind of getting some of that signal of like, okay, well, this guy is not actually amazing. He's more in the role player ilk. So Chris Bell is also lower than, and he's been considered a lesser prospect um, from a risk standpoint mainly. There's a very wide range of outcomes for Chris Bell. Uh, I'm. It's interesting that the mock drafts have him higher than the film, like consensus is on him. Weird player. Uh, it's I don't know what to make of it, honestly. He is overvalued right now by the mock drafts apparently. So Kevin Coleman Jr. Now this guy was one of my favorites when I watched his highlights. I mean, I graded him out super high, like insanely high. Probably too high, obviously, but he pops. Every film person likes him more, it seems, generally, than the current mock draft consensus. He is probably a slot only player. which gives me some pause. But there's a chance he could go to a team that does actually utilize the slot receiver still. So I think he's probably on the spectrum of Wandale to Calvin Austin. Where he falls on that spectrum, I'm not sure, but he's definitely worth a late round rookie draft pick like dart throw, I would say. Jacoby Lane is a little undervalued as well. This guy is like a big body X receiver that I think can kind of win from a route standpoint. Um, there was one specific uh, route type that he dominated in, and that was zone coverage, single zone coverage. What I think that just means when you're running against zone and there's a clearly only one single defender in your vicinity that's responsible for you, he destroyed in that type against that type of coverage. He was just kind of meh against just plain zone in man's single man, but he he's interesting because he's big, tall, has the ability to win the ball, um, and yeah, he in some ways I think he's got some better skills than Lemon. Is he better than Lemon as a whole? No, but there's something to Jacoby Lane. He's not a scrub. He's interesting, like a legitimate interesting prospect. Zachariah Branch, way lower in the film community than consensus. At some point earlier in the process, that was not true, but it is true now that I've added more data points. Man, this guy is probably just gadget player. He's very fun with the ball in his hands, but man, you just can't draft. You can't draft this type of player. I mean, you're just like asking to get Kadarius Toney. Obviously, he doesn't have like the same off the field issues as Toney does. Thank God. But like, or actually, did Toney even have off field issues? I think it was really just character thing. Um, but yeah, that's not for me. Dejon Stribling is a little bit undervalued, just slightly. Nothing really of note. He reminds me of like a lesser Trey Harris, maybe. It's kind of a lazy comp, kind of helmet scouting, but whatever. Elijah Surratt, pretty decently lower by the consensus film community than the mock drafts. And I think it's just because he can't really separate at a high level. What he did in the college level is not very translatable, I don't think. Another guy that probably would benefit from moving to the slot and being a power slot. He's very tough and physical. I think he's similar to like a Robert Woods in that kind of lane. But that's also similar to like Jalen Polk, I guess, coming out. So that is concerning. And then Antonio Williams. As much as I wanted to like Antonio Williams, and a lot of film people gush about Antonio Williams, he is overvalued by consensus, or according to consensus versus the mock drafts. Receiver 19. Yeah, there's he can definitely play. I mean, there's route running ability there, but he's probably at 12. That's a bit much probably. Josh Cameron, I mean, he's pretty much okay. Reggie Virgil, this is a guy that popped to me when watching the highlights quite a bit. If we go to back to the separation data, I believe in man coverage for PFF, he had the number one single coverage beating. And then we see Cameron was up there too. I think a lot of this is somewhat schematic, but man, there might be something to Reggie Virgil. I think he was a basketball player before, so he has some of that translatable skill set from different sports. You want to see kind of experience and ability across sports. That's generally a good thing to see. That's one of my favorite late round dart throws. Eric McAllister is liked a lot more by the film community than the mock draft consensus, and it's just because I think he has off the field issues, and so that is the concern with him. He's very solid. I do have some concerns about him as a player, from a route running standpoint. But there's something there potentially. Um, is Preston Williams like a bad comp? Maybe. I don't know what I'm talking about really. Let's be honest. But Eric Rivers, more of a slot receiver type. I think he's literally just he's mainly a special teams guy. I don't think this is actually a legitimate receiver. If he gets an opportunity, I think he could take advantage of it because he's not that bad and winning out of the slot isn't that difficult. But yeah, it's probably slightly overvalued or undervalued. Um, am I going on my way to target him? No, don't really see much of an upside case for him, but kind of fun player. Ted Hurst, majorly overvalued. I mean, I see what others see in him. Tall, fast, got some good route ability to him, but the lower level of competition, and I'm just not sure if those route skills translate for him in particular. Cyrus Allen is somehow a little bit overvalued by the mock drafts right now. I think he's perfectly fine slot receiver. I mean, he's got some good release moves from what I saw. Deion Burks, um, somehow way overvalued. Uh, I guess maybe I don't know what's causing his consensus value to be low because I don't think he's that bad of a route runner. It's just and he's pretty explosive too. He's on the smaller side. So maybe he's another guy that falls into the camp of like a more of a gadgety type at the NFL level. But I do kind of like him. I don't. But even though in my heart of hearts, if you told me, oh, is Deion Burks gonna be good? I'd probably tell you no. Like it doesn't feel to me. It's like I feel like I've seen this type of player before, and like they're fun, they're twitchy, they've got juice, and they're exciting. Even him, he's got like legitimate route running chops, but it's like man, and he one thing about him is he comes back to the ball very well too. But uh, yeah, just receiver 17. I think I'm probably gonna be out. This is a guy that I wanted to like though. And then Jeff Cadwell, nothing really special. Ran a fast 40. And then Kendrick Law is more of a gadgety type of player as well. Um, okay. And then I don't think I looked at tight end. I don't really care about tight end. I haven't even looked at this yet. Um, so we got Sadiq number one, Stowers. So this is just general consensus. I don't watch tight end. I don't have much of an opinion on them. I mostly am just waiting to hear back from Max Toscano on this. But yeah, because whatever he thinks about these guys is going to impact my opinion drastically. We got some cats fighting in the background. Apologies. Anyways, this is it. This is all the work that I've done. If you liked it, let me know. If you want to like actually get access to the sandbox rankings here, let me know too, and I'll provide them to you.